group of people, so let's hope it goes well. Hi, I'm Morgan. I'm here to talk about a subject that's very important to me, but first I'd like you all to look at a series of photos. In your head, I want you to think about what these people could possibly have in common. Now keep that thought in your mind. Now I want you to look at this set of photos and look at what these people could possibly have in common. Okay, the first group of people sadly died, and the second group is the loved ones that survived them. And while the battles they fought may have been individual, the war was the same, the war against suicide. Suicide is not something that is normally considered. Suicide tends to be a very quiet and unassuming illness. This makes the stigma around it even worse. People tend to victim blame because they have no way of helping, but that has a huge impact on not just victims, but their families, their friends, and their community. And similar to how we may not consider the impact of suicide on these groups of people, we may not also consider the things that we say or do that create or add to the stigma around suicide. However, by unmasking and dissolving these stigmatic thoughts, words, and actions, we can create a healthier and more open way to discuss loss and experiences of suicide. Just by improving the way we think, talk, and do things about suicide, we can help to at least partially prevent loss. However, most of the stigma around suicide is created in very quiet and unassuming ways. For example, when I tell people about my dad, they often whisper or act embarrassed to be talking about it. My father's death should not have to be a source of embarrassment for anybody. In fact, nobody should consider suicide an embarrassing or shameful death. Dying from suicide is like dying from an illness, just not in the typical sense of the word. Instead of affecting your body like malaria or the flu, suicide affects your mind. Therefore, we should treat it with the same respect as dying through an illness. This next example is something that I experience every single day. I will be walking through the halls of this very school, and I'll pass a group of kids my age, maybe a bit older. And I'll walk by and I'll hear one of them say, "Oh my gosh, if Miss XYZ chooses to give homework today, I'm actually going to kill myself." Which frustrates me because I know they don't mean it, they're just saying it to express their ignorance. But even though they may throw it around so lightly, suicide is a big deal. 700,000 people die yearly on average worldwide from suicide. It is the 11th leading cause of death in America. One American dies by suicide every 11 minutes. So it's problematic when people choose to use it as a joke. But it gets even worse. Sometimes, if I know the person, I'll say, "Hey, my dad tried that, wouldn't recommend." And then they'll say, "Oh, it was just a joke," or, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I won't do it around you anymore." Which I know sounds like I'm getting a little preachy until you put it like this. A group of kids is all walking by and they're all ragging on this one kid. And they go, "I hope you get cancer and die." Now obviously somebody's going to say something to them like, "Cancer isn't funny, right?" Cancer isn't funny. How come the same courtesy does not apply? It's still death and it's still painful. Why is it acceptable to joke about one but not the other? Suicide is serious, and I promise you people who have experienced it are tired of people pretending that it's not. And it's beyond our understanding why they choose to do that, but it needs to stop now. And if you don't believe me, believe the testimonials you've been reading throughout my talk. Actions matter. Avoiding, disrespecting, and trivializing the very real topic of loss by suicide is not productive and very hurtful to both victims and survivors of suicide. It is not conducive to helping us, our friends, our family, and our world full of strangers understand and cope with loss by suicide. I don't know about you, but it makes me sad to hear of someone feeling so terrible, so horrible, and so hopeless that they believe that suicide is the only way out of whatever their problem may be, especially with methods like prevention through rehab, therapy, meds, and support groups. Now, before I go, I want you to close your eyes and imagine how wonderful a world without suicide would be. Imagine how awesome life would be because because you could have discussions about suicide in open and rewarding spaces. Suicide wouldn't even register on the charts of causes of death. And maybe even the loved ones who we hold so dear could still be alive today if suicide had been erased. Now open your eyes and carry that wonderful vision around in your heart. And maybe the next time someone looks a little bit sad, tell them, hey, are you okay? Maybe the next time someone shares their struggle with suicidal ideation, you will say, hey, let me get you some resources to help you with that. And maybe you won't make those terrible clips about suicide anymore. Finally, maybe suicide will get the right amount of time, energy, and resources devoted to preventing it. Thank you.